Hello, hello, everybody. Happy Monday. It's a short week. It's Thanksgiving week. That means only 3 work days, or maybe 3 school days, or whatever. It's a holiday week. So, happy Thanksgiving week, everybody. I'm Julie Barrett, founder of Conservative Ladies of America. And we have we have a special live stream for you today. I am going to be joined by our programs director, Gjersvold, who is part of our leadership team. And I actually met Joy back in 2023. She was actually a chapter chair for another organization. She had her own chapter in Kitsap County, Washington for Moms for Liberty. And we partnered up to do a protest at the Capitol in Olympia, Washington, in protest of a bill. It was Senate Bill 5599. It's essentially state-sanctioned kidnapping, transgender trafficking of children. And Joy and I became fast friends, and she is very passionate about especially education, but she's passionate about a lot of issues, and she is very detail oriented. And there were a lot of things that I really liked about Joy and her work. And I felt like we had a lot of things in common. And so when I knew that she was considering abandoning her or closing her Moms for Liberty chapter, I pitched her with an invitation to join our leadership team at Conservative Ladies of America. And so I am pleased to say that Joy has now been with us for almost 2 years. I want to say it'll be 2 years in January. And you might have heard some rumblings going on about the Department of Education being dissolved. And so Joy was all over this. And I said, would you be willing to dig into the details? And then we could do a live stream to break it down for our audience sometime this week. And so she has done that. So welcome, my friend and our programs director for Conservative Ladies of America, Joy Gjersvold. Joy, thank you so much for taking the time to join me this afternoon.
Absolutely. It's fun. Happy Thanksgiving. I'm glad I get to see your pretty face before the holiday.
I know. And it's crazy to me because, it's 85 degrees today. And so it
Yeah,
doesn't feel very Thanksgiving.
it does here.
Yeah, I know. I've been hearing it's cold, it's wet, it's dark. Those were all like the things that, signal Thanksgiving is coming,
Yeah.
Thanksgiving is coming. And so I know, a lot of people like that. I know you've been like had the pumpkin spice out and the candles out
Absolutely, I
since
have.
August. And
Not quite that early. Almost. Almost. My Santas aren't up yet. You should be very
that
happy.
I am happy. I'm grateful for that. I
You're
think we
so
have
funny.
I think we have to wait for Thanksgiving to pass before we bring out the Christmas
I like
trees
to
and the
do that
Santa.
too.
And um so I want to talk to you a little bit before we get into the meat of this. You and like our whole leadership team at Conservative Ladies is like, we're so like-minded, like we're all on the same page, and we're
We
all
are.
like beyond the headlines, right? Like we see a headline and we're like, what is really going on with this? And we, dig into the details, because that's the stuff that most people, including lawmakers,
Mhm.
social media influencers, other activist groups that are similar to ours, and so unfortunately, that's a big disservice to the citizens, right? Because
It
we
is.
have these sort of people who are looked to as, I don't want to say leaders, but information sources, right?
Right. Right.
And so, I know you did some work with Moms for Liberty, and I know you were very detailed about that. What do you like? I hate to put you on the spot, but like as far as
Fine.
like what, because I know that you've seen other things, and not to put Moms for Liberty on the spot, because it's kind of a general thing with a lot of these organizations and groups on the conservative side. What Like, how do we as conservative ladies of America and the citizens and the people that are, kind of like look to us as supporters, how can we do a better job of messaging to people and sort of working beyond some of these like high level clickbaity kinds of things?
Well, first and foremost, I think that the number one challenge that we have is to get out from underneath the noise of influencers.
Yeah,
They aren't in the business of facts necessarily. They're in the business of clicks because every click, every share, every quote, it's money
right,
rather than facts. And what do people need to know so that then they can go out and make better decisions as an informed consumer, informed voter, however you want to state that. I think the key to that is that as activists, we must be constant students. We
right.
can't be afraid to see a policy that we thought was good, that sounds good to the ear, that feels good in our heart, and just put that out there without looking at the potential for pitfalls. And you and I have talked a lot recently. It's been on my heart that we have to, when we know better, we have to do better.
Right.
And there are big issues, political issues that I once was 100% on board with pertaining to parental rights, education, and a bunch of other stuff that I actually have changed my mind on once I started digging in. And for me, and maybe this is another main part of the message, when you put out information to parents and voters, that's your reputation that you're putting out there.
Yeah.
I care that people trust me, and one of the highest compliments that I have ever gotten from someone in my community is, "One of the reasons that we love you is because you don't waffle. You say if you learn something different, you say if you're wrong, but you don't just blow with whichever way a party goes or people tell you to go." And that's really one of the things that drew me to conservative ladies, Julie, was we stand on our integrity, on our principles,
Yeah.
and we don't compromise those. And there's freedom in that.
Oh,
Huge freedom in
100%,
that.
100%.
We're not buying, I joke about, do I get a new Bugatti? I'm always joking
Right,
about that.
right,
But the truth is that we don't have people calling you or calling me or calling anyone on our team saying, "You can't say that," or "You need to
right.
say." We
And
say
it's
what's
funny,
right
kind of
and we
along
think
those
about it.
lines, I don't know if you saw this, but somebody messaged our Facebook, sent a Facebook message to the Conservative Ladies of Washington Facebook page and was like, you guys need to get on board with these initiatives. And, people have been doing that to me since the day I started Conservative
Mhm.
Ladies of Washington. I don't have to get on board with anything. You're not the boss of me. You're not paying me, tens of thousands of dollars to get on board with it. So, like, pound sand, kindly go pound sand.
Well, and the minute that we compromise our values and the things that more often we hear thank you for standing by what we believe in, for having true conservative values, for not compromising that. The minute that we do, all of our integrity, everything we've ever worked for, everything that's important to you as our founder is dead
Right.
in that
Exactly.
one moment.
And
And
just to clarify, we're not against the initiatives, but
yeah, that's not what we're saying. It's there,
that's not
it's
that's
other stuff.
we have our lane, and
Mhm,
we do have opinions on the initiatives. We encourage people to sign them, but we've watched the last few years, and so it's not something that we're going to put time and
yeah,
energy into, because we are a small team, we are citizen funded, and so we have limited bandwidth. We don't have mega
yeah,
donors that we can hire staff, to do these things. And so we want to use
right.
our bandwidth on things that are to our mission as conservative ladies of America. So, to that end, let's really dig into this because I know
Yeah,
you have been down in the rabbit hole trying to
I went
figure
so
out
far down.
all of this stuff. And there are so many things coming out of the Trump administration and the GOP. We're mostly talking, you guys, on a federal level right now. I
Yeah.
mean, it's probably in every state too,
Mhm.
but it's just like they do not have a plan. When the GOP gets into leadership, when they have the majority, they don't have a plan. They are not executing, and it's so frustrating. And
It
so
is.
under kind of the nice talking points, there are some unfortunate truths. So so there's a press release came out from the Department of Education last week.
Mhm.
Should I put that up on the screen? Is that where
Sure,
we should
yeah,
start?
if you would like
Okay.
to, absolutely, and, as we dive into this, I want to encourage anybody who's watching to remember a couple of things. Always be thinking about what a press release, a policy, a law, legislation, anything like that doesn't say. It's what it doesn't say that is usually the most dangerous. Usually, not always, but usually. Also, you have to ask yourself, and I was thinking about this last night in preparation. My husband and I, he's retired Navy. We had a lot of decisions to make throughout his 21-year career, and one of the questions that was always a litmus test for us was at what cost?
Mm,
If the cost was our kids, if the cost was our marriage, in this case, if it's the cost of the education of our children, we have to ask ourselves these questions because it really sounds good. So, one of the first things I want to mention in this press release, just for fun, that I'm pretty hesitant about AI, but just because I needed something quick and I'd read it, but I wanted to make sure that what I read was indeed matching up. I ran this press release through Grok because I was curious to find out how many times does it mention academic excellence or improving math and reading scores? It's a big fat goose egg. There is absolutely no mention in any of the new policy transparency that they keep claiming or any of these new partnerships that talk about improving academic performance, which is a huge concern for parents right now. We know how many of our kids, two-thirds of our kids in America, can't read at third and fourth grade reading level. They don't regain that. They don't just magically start reading. But there is a lot. In fact, this entire policy is built around how will education benefit the workforce and in turn the American economy. Now, I don't know about other parents, but nobody gets to determine what my kids are going to do when they grow up except them. And I don't care how that adds to the economic status of the United States.
100%.
They get to pick that. And when you look, Julie, we talk a lot about this, the web of legislation in Washington state and other states. There's a huge web in this that is going to allow a lot of decisions to be made because of existing or unrepealed legislation that is then going to shape AI policy. We already know through EOs and announcements and the big beautiful bill, or one big beautiful bill, that Trump is all in for AI.
Yeah.
Now, you have one camp that's saying we need to educate about AI so kids know the dangers, but the truth is that's not what they're doing. They're educating kids about AI so that they can put them into the workforce. That's what they want to do. So, in this announcement, and I don't know if anyone else has noticed, but this is another thing that always sends up a red flag for me. When there is a full court press about how lovely and wonderful something is, and no one ever talks about the potential pitfalls, that should be a red flag.
Yeah.
And Secretary McMahon has been on a full court press, rah, 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 this is the best thing that's happened since sliced bread. But they don't really go into the meat and the potatoes of what's going to happen. First of all, I know that I think there was a quote or something, I can't remember, but we've talked. They're not dissolving, they're not doing away with the Department of Ed.
Is that on I've got a couple here.
Yeah, it's one of the
Is this it?
that's one of them, but I'll talk about this because I can segue into this.
Okay. Okay, perfect.
So the only way to completely get rid of the Department of Education requires a vote by Congress or major amendments made to the Department of Education Organization Act that was set forth into law in 1979.
Can I
Now,
pause you right there for
yeah,
just a quick second?
absolutely. Absolutely.
Representative Thomas Massey, who
Mhm.
President Trump does not like anymore, he does have a bill He has
Yep.
filed a bill. It was a while ago to
Mhm.
abolish the Department of Education. So that is on the
Yes.
table, but it hasn't moved. So sorry,
Correct.
continue.
No, I'm glad that you brought that up because 3 attempts have been made at least, not including any new stuff like from Massey and other people. Reagan tried to do this. Gingrich in the 80s. Gingrich tried to do it in the 90s, and then in 2023, we had HR 899. So there's a history of trying to get this
Mhm.
done, but there's a lot of bipartisan pushback for some valid reasons, some typical that we kind of expect. Like, of course, the left is going to be most focused on equity and inclusion and cultural diversity, and or not diversity, but cultural, what do we call it? The lived experience of
Oh,
cultural,
right.
yeah, all of that. Of course, there's going to be that. But here's the other problem. Instead of going from one department that's going to oversee education, we go to 4 departments already. They've signed interagency partnerships. Department of Labor has 2 roles they're going to fill. We have a chart that'll show that in a few minutes. But in this quote, this is actually from an Epoch Times uh, article from this morning, specifically stating that they might be adding more interagency partnerships. So we could be up to 7
Wow.
different government agencies managing all the different moving parts of what's been estimated between 88 billion and 94 billion dollars for a budget.
Wow.
And they're not telling us where the money is going, how much it's, being divided up as, or anything like that. Um,
It seems like
so
it will be harder to track if it is distributed amongst so many agencies like
exactly.
that.
And when you think about, for example, Department of Labor, the states have individual departments that often mirror at the state level. Well, state Department of Labor doesn't always necessarily do or align with the federal. I mean, on big things they have to, like non-discrimination and things like that. But they're even talking about moving the Office of Civil Rights. Are you ready for this one, parents? To the Department of Justice.
Wow.
Now, I don't know how many of you remember, but I do because I bet you if I could figure out how to find out, I bet you I still have my threat tag because I'm a parent and I speak out. Remember, parents, the DOJ labeled us
Yep.
domestic terrorists.
Yep.
Now, I know that that was under a different administration,
And
but
they never
nothing's,
apologized.
no apologies and no official removal, no official announcements come out that those threat tags have been removed,
That's true.
even by the Trump administration. So I have serious government doubt. Like I am very skeptical of the government, but a lot of that came from the COVID era, and that's how we must as parents approach all of this.
Right.
Because if you look at the fine print of what they're going to be doing, all of this policy, these EOs, all of these, I'm going to call it a dream for the Department of Ed, is wrought with solid socialist language, workforce readiness,
Yeah.
the economic climate of the United States, global language, and yet lots of conservative people claiming to be conservatives, parental rights groups, different groups here in Washington, all over the United States, are jumping all over this like it's the greatest thing that's going to happen. But when you hand those responsibilities over to so many different working pieces, everybody's got their own way of doing things. And as I went down the rabbit hole, you cannot believe how many people from the Department of Education, either currently who took jobs in some of these agencies or former Department of Ed who are now lobbyists also working on this. It is layers and layers deep. And that's how they will continue
Yeah.
to control state education, because each of these agencies will be in charge of setting up how you compete for grant money and how you qualify. And the only way to report on your qualification is to gather data on your students and send it to the federal government. So that's the other thing for all of these groups. And I know we've spoken out about data collection for adults
Yeah.
and children, and in light of this push from the right.
Uh-oh. Looks like we're losing Joy a little bit here. Are you still with us, Joy? Well, she's talking about
Digital
data
ID and
privacy,
all
so
these things.
oh,
Why are we planning?
I don't know which one of us is having technical issues, if it's me or if it's Joy. So maybe someone can let me know in the comments. But we are talking about the data mining of American students in public education, and this is a big thing that we've been talking a lot about lately. And there's been, if you've been watching our Substacks and even the videos, I've been talking a lot about how thank you, Silvermine. It's Joy. So she looks like she's left, and hopefully she will come back with a stronger connection. But we've seen on the right, we've got a few different bills, and we've got the App Store Accountability Act and also the Guard Act, and both of these are. Here's Joy back in, but both of these are means of data collection, and they're being pushed by Republicans and conservative think tanks and conservative parent organizations. They're really tapping into the mom groups to push these policies that are huge data collection, gateway to
Mhm.
digital ID. So, Joy, you're back. Welcome back.
I am sorry about that. We joke all the time when we talk about really, really, really spicy stuff.
Yeah.
Something tech happens all the time, all the
Well, I'm
time.
just glad it wasn't me,
Um,
because I'm feeling like I fixed some of my tech issues that had me lagging on the live. So I'm glad it wasn't me. I'm glad it's you. But so jump
no,
back in.
I apologize.
I think I picked up to where you were headed with
Yeah,
some of these
about the data collection.
yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, it is. It's very, very concerning that this is what they're going to do. And at this point, what it sounds like, based on the November 18th press release, and then McMahon also had a press call that she was going over the fact sheet with people from the press. It looks like the place that they would send the data collection is the Census Bureau, because
Hmm.
that's what they do. They collect data. So there's another layer, and you have to ask yourself, if the goal clearly is not to improve academic outcome, it's by the state for the state. That's what we're doing. And another thing that people always have to do, and I know we talk about this a lot, we educate people about this a lot. While this might look like a safe and effective policy right now with the people who are currently in office, you have to think about what this is going to look like when people who oppose you are in power, because it's not if, it's when. It's when.
Right.
So, would you be okay with, if you are a conservative, the liberals' definition of what is appropriate for education in order to better the workforce? Are you okay with that for your kids? You have to ask yourself these questions. And ultimately, for us at CLA, I know our whole team feels this way. It should be the parents who are educating their children. You are in charge of educating your children. If you're a Christian, you're tasked with that duty.
Absolutely.
And we have to be willing to make those tough choices. I know, one of the things that I've changed on when I started as an activist in this field, I used to be a public education teacher, and both my parents are retired public education teachers, and I was still in we got to save it. We can make it better. We can save it. But when you understand what the education system is built on, trying to save it is a fool's errand.
Yeah.
It was never meant to educate children for the sake of educating them, academics. And it was never meant to foster families and to work with families. The parents' only role in the public education system is to produce children to give to the state.
Yep.
That's their role. And it's a harsh reality. It is so hard to wrap your head around that. But what this programming does, the way that they're spreading things out, and because they can't answer any specific questions about, well, how much money are they going to be managing? How will that be managed? What is that going to look like? What kind of data? Which is actually something we've seen a lot with the Trump administration. Look at when they were firing a whole bunch of people in HR. It was, okay, we don't want all these millions of jobs that are superfluous jobs, and I'm all for that. Cut the dead weight, right?
Yeah, for
But
sure.
it sounded good, but there was no thought put into how that was gonna be carried out at the HR level. It was a
Yeah.
nightmare for everyone.
Yeah.
And so, we have to think about that, and we have to think about what how are these agencies gonna work together? How are we as parents going to navigate these agencies? And one of the big things, for a long time now, we've seen a lot of people asking questions. Well, what about special education? That should be a concern for everyone, teachers, parents, everyone. And first it was nothing's going to happen. It's going to stay right where it is. Well, right now, special education will be managed by the Department of Education while it's still a department. But they're not really sure where they're going to send that yet. It might be Health and Human Services, might not be. We don't know. It's like a choose your own adventure right now. Um, can you put up that graphic that I made so
Yes.
that folks can see where everything there? Here we go. So they have 6 agreements right now because the Department of Labor and Health and Human Services are each taking 2 roles right now. So that's why they say that they have 6, but there's 4 departments involved right now. And this is just broad overview of what they're going to be doing. So for instance, the Department of Labor is going to be looking at K-12 programs, low income, all the migrant education, at-risk youth, all the Title I money. So they're going to be managing that part of education. So their responsibilities will be funding with workforce development to align with employment outcomes. Notice academics isn't mentioned there. It's to make sure that Johnny is ready to push this lever and pull
Right.
it's not about, can my child read? Can my child write? Can they function in the world? And that's scary to me as a teacher. I don't care how skilled you are at a skilled trade. If you cannot communicate, you're in trouble. It's hard to communicate if you're a business owner with your staff, that kind of thing.
Something I
So
wonder,
those are some of the things.
I want to before we move on from this Department of Labor, because one of the things
Yeah.
that we've been seeing, especially at a state level,
Mhm,
is and with Washington State, um, State Board of Education,
mhm,
there's this big push to, and I'm not sure if this is every state because I haven't dug into on this particular issue, but you have where the state wants
mhm.
kids to decide like what they're gonna be when they grow up, when they're in like sixth grade, right? It's like post graduation plan, and they're like little kids. Um, and it seems like if the Department of Labor was brought into this, it seems like that would even become a bigger issue in the public school system across the country. Are you still with me? Joy? Joy, are you with me? I think
Oh, we're having a couple tech
we're
issues again, my friend.
we are losing her again. I'm gonna while Joy fixes her
There
tech
we
issues,
go. Okay.
I'm gonna address
God
this
gravy, I'm
question.
telling you.
Can you hear me? Nope, she can't hear me. I'm going to address this question from Christopher. Don't you agree that the federal government should get out of education altogether and hand this over to the states or locally? Absolutely. Yes, I do, Christopher. I totally agree with you on that. And I don't know, I haven't really dug into Thomas Massey's bill to abolish the Department of Education. So I don't know what the plan in that bill is, if it is similar to what we've got going on here where they're going to offload onto these other agencies, or if they're actually going to abolish it and this stuff is all going to go away. There's no reason that the states shouldn't be able to deal with this education piece without the federal government being involved. And, some people I know were really excited when the Trump administration came in. Like if you're in a state like Washington, you're going to be excited that the Trump administration is here because because then, hopefully you're going to deal with some of the woke education and some of the gender ideology and DEI and ethnic studies issues with the Trump administration. However, we've seen how that has not been going so well so far. And so, I think you would see more movement, more sifting is what I call it, of people who would maybe leave blue states or homeschool, or, what I'd really like to see is like a parallel economy. Dan Bongino, when he used to have his podcast, he talked about that a lot, where you have all these parallel systems so that you don't have to go along with what the government is doing. And I wish that we would see more of a parallel economy as it pertains to education, because this problem with public education is so big. It is a decades long issue to get it fixed. And our kids don't have time to wait in these public schools for it to get fixed. So kids need to be out of the public schools, and we need to be developing some kind of parallel but very different education system. So I do agree with you there, Christopher. And it looks like we have Joy back. Joy, are you back?
Ooh, good gravy of all the days.
There's something going on out there in
I am
Kitsap
back. Can you hear me
County.
okay?
Can you hear me?
Oh, goodness.
Oh, it doesn't seem like it. Well, I'm going to pull her.
They're trying to, yep, I can,
Her.
well, sort of.
Are you with
Oh,
us? You might need to like reboot your computer. So I'll just like ad lib here, you guys. I didn't do the deep dive, so I don't know. And hopefully, hopefully
uh,
Joy will come
I'm
back
here.
online. But the next one, the next interagency partnership is with the Department of Interior. They would be tribal education programs for K-12 higher education, career technical education, and vocational. Is that rehabilitation? I can't see. That's so small. And my eyes are going terrible. It's like I turned 50 and my eyesight went to crap. Joy, when you hear us, when you can hear me, just shout and I'm going to hand this back over to you. The Department of Interior then would be responsible
Yeah, can you
for,
guys hear me?
I can hear you. You can't hear
Mhm.
me. They would be responsible for managing the grants for K-12 schools, integrate with the Department of Interior's education initiatives to enhance culturally relevant public education in schools. This culturally relevant stuff is another big like red flag. It looks like you maybe can hear me now, Joy. Nope, she can't. But anyway, that culturally
Uh,
relevant piece is more woke education. So that is a huge red flag. And it's rather unfortunate to see this coming out of the Trump administration's plan for offloading the Department of Education onto these other agencies. Joy, can you hear?
yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Julie?
Yeah.
Well, I'm here. Okay, yay! Goodness.
Can you hear?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Everybody that's watching is
I
probably
can
like,
hear you.
can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
I know they're all laughing. They're like, ha ha ha.
We're low tech. Our
Am I back
producers
okay?
have the day off. It's Thanksgiving week. So sorry guys, the tech staff
That's
is out
right.
of office today. Maybe you can
Can you
pick
hear
up
me
with
again?
what's that? Nope, we're having a hard time here. I'm going to move on to
It
Health and
this
Human Services. The National Committee on Foreign Medical Education and Accreditation Oversight, Childcare Access means parents and school camp. It's the campus program. And then the responsibilities would be to go ahead, Joy. I can't read it very well, so I'll let you read it if you're able.
the responsibility. You guys can hear me okay? Hopefully. We're hoping. Okay. So manage the accreditation for foreign medical schools, manage federally funded low income childcare for parents who are in college. That's what the campus program is.
Okay.
Um, typically, from what I read, it's not just like young students that are, but teachers who are also low income can use that as well. This I found interesting that they will support CTE pathways. We've seen that with the mastery based learning, um, to lead to healthcare fields. So they could have influence over the CTE fields and policy with that.
Oh, interesting.
So it's going to be interesting to see how they all play together, because that's part of the question. We don't
Right.
know. Each one of these entities, these agencies, could have a different way of putting forth what they're supposed to be doing that may or may not play well with other agencies. So
Yeah, that's one of
that's
the
one of the
things that kind
concerns.
of concerns me about this is like the inconsistency because you have so many different agencies involved with different staff and management and
Yes.
oversight. And it just seems like it's a real patchwork of things. Like Christopher said, I guess I'd really um, I'd really just rather see it go back entirely to the states, and maybe there's some kind of grant funding that,
Yes.
one
Eh,
agency could oversee, but this is like crazy.
mhm. Yeah, because each agency is going to influence what they have for requirements for those grants, I guess, unless Congress passes something. But then again, that means that the federal government's still involved. And really quick, I want to go back and address, I did see Christopher's question. Um, I don't know if you meant that like in general or personally. I absolutely support the federal government being out of education, but that's not what they're doing in this case. They're still very much involved because the policies at the federal level will shape policy in each of these agencies, which then shape what happens. And because states have to report to these agencies in order to continue to get money, that's where that federal finger is still in the soup
Well, I
kind of
think
thing.
what he is saying,
So
at least,
it should be a clean break.
yeah, and I think that's what he was saying is that this should have been a clean break
Mhm.
rather than
Okay.
basically
Yeah, I
that
mean,
was my
but it
interpretation. So
can't.
Christopher, if we're wrong, you can correct us. But it seemed like
Yeah. Yeah, please let us know.
we still have a Department of Education. It's just now it's just been spread
Probably.
out amongst all these other places.
Exactly. Exactly. And then the Department of State, the last one that has an interagency agreement right now, they will oversee the Fulbright Hays grants and international education, foreign language initiatives, foreign language funding. They'll manage the foreign language studies and grants in K-12 public school, as far as world language programs are concerned and international studies. And there's that global language again, enhance global competencies in public education. And I'm kind of not surprised to see that global language. If you look back at every single president in my lifetime, including Republicans, they all support the global education initiatives from the UN, from everywhere. You just have to look for it. And I wasn't old enough, I wasn't involved enough, I didn't see it. I'm looking at it through a different lens now.
Sure.
So, and my sincere apologies for the tech issues. I like what you said. Our technicians are off for the week because of the
That's
holiday.
right. Well, if it happens again, Silvermine had a great idea. If it happens again, go ahead and just reboot your whole system. It may take a little bit longer, but that might be the thing.
That was going to be my next thing. I couldn't believe it. We had some outages yesterday, so that was also
Ah,
part of it. I was like, "Oh no, not again." Anyway, there I'm trying to think, there was something else I wanted to say. Um, oh, I think it's just reiterating. It's really important that we think about, because each of these are still government agencies. So the feds are still involved. This idea that the feds are going to be completely out of,
nope, there she goes again. Um, so I know where she's going with this, so I'll just nope.
that's a very hard pill to swallow.
You cut out, but we're just gonna keep rolling. Nope. I'm gonna have to Joy, I'm taking you off the stage because I can't handle it anymore. But where she was going with that was, that they're offloading this onto all of these different agencies. And so we've got, so many different, and I don't know, I haven't looked, I haven't done a deep dive on this because I left that up to Joy, but I would imagine that there may be some more staffing coming into this. And one of the things that I think is going on here is that this is a messaging piece, because so many people, when Trump was running for president, so many people wanted the Department of Education to be abolished. And so doing this, this effort of saying we're getting rid of the Department of Education, it makes it look like they're doing the thing that we all wanted them to do. But really what they're doing is they're just reorganizing the Department of Education. What we have like regular corporations do, the big tech companies do it all the time. They reorg, and they're just moving parts around. Maybe they get rid of some of their staffing, but for the most part, they're just reorganizing people and positions. And I feel like that's what is going on here. This seems like a messaging piece. Joy mentioned the, yes, Silvermine, a lot of political theater. I think that's exactly what is going on here. And we're seeing this with so many other things, with, what was it come out today, that they're extending Obamacare for like another 2 years. So rather than doing what they promised to do with that, now they're just extending it. So yes, I agree that this is just a lot of political theater. And it's really disappointing, because I feel like this is like our opportunity to really get some of this stuff done. And I feel like if they don't get this stuff done really soon, if they don't really start chipping away at this, there are going to be so many voters who are so disenfranchised because we gave Trump the mandate, and it's been sort of one disappointment after another after another. And so for the 2026 election, I'm very fearful that we're going to see the Democrats get a majority in Congress. So that would be very unfortunate. And yes, same with the Second Amendment and the NFA. Yes, I totally agree with you, Silvermine. Let's see if Joy, how are you doing, Joy? Are you back with us? Nope. Okay. So let's see. I'm going to put up one of her last graphics, I think. That what's next? The Department of Education officials have yet to disclose how much money these moves will save taxpayers, probably because they're not going to save us anything. When does the government ever save the taxpayers money? I mean, seriously. And I think one of the things I'm concerned about is now that you've got, all these extra agencies involved, now you're going to have like 4 to 7 or however many agencies we've got involved. You're going to have all of those agencies sort of fighting for and trying to get taxpayer funding. And that is, I think, what we're going to see once this is sort of offloaded to all these other agencies. So Department of Education officials have yet to disclose how much money these moves will save taxpayers, when the moves will be in effect, and whether there will be additional layoffs. They alluded that more interagency transfer agreements may be forthcoming. And this is from, I believe this is from the Epoch Times article that Joy found. I'm going to pull that up here as well. Just we can scroll through this real quick here. And let's see, I need to share my screen. Thanks for bearing with me, you guys. Okay, let's put this up. Okay. We got an ad here. Let's see. Hopefully this is okay. Here we go. 9 months ago, President Trump signed the executive order to dismantle the Department of Education. And as Joy mentioned, other US leaders have called for it, but they've never attempted it. And I don't know. I'm not very hopeful, you guys. The plans for dismantling the department were revealed in more detail on November 18th. We had that up at the beginning of the of our stream here. Let's see if we're going to give Joy one last chance. Joy, this is your last chance.
I know, my goodness, I haven't ever had this kind
I'm
of
like, I'm
technical.
annoyed now.
Good grief, like, I've lost my composure. What's going on here? Oh, thank you for continuing on. I actually had another little thing I wanted to bring up. I was like, "I have to get back on, there's more to share."
Yeah, before something happens, is there anything on this? And guys, I will put a link to this article into the chat for you guys if you want to go and read this for yourself. Did you want this up, or do you want something else up on the screen?
No, this is just fine because they actually kind of allude to this in this article. One of the parts of this dismantling of the Department of Ed is what's going to happen to post-secondary student funding. So this is another kind of a bait and switch is what the way that I see it. They're not being 100% truthful with this right now. In the big beautiful bill, one big beautiful bill, which is the catalyst to allow this to happen. He outlined what he wanted to have happen. He talks about post-secondary school loans and things like that. While Trump made a couple little tiny tweaks, changed a couple little names, the burden is still on taxpayers to pay for college loan subsidies and for the forgiveness programs. There's no talk about taking that burden, removing that burden, and because they haven't really decided exactly who's going to oversee this, in this article, it's mentioned that they may send student lending to the Small Business Administration because that's what they do. They fund small businesses. So they have that infrastructure, I guess, or framework in place. This is one of the biggest hiccups for approval from Congress coming from both sides. That because there's no real plan in place, because there's no transparency on how this will be handled, that it could disrupt funding. And of course, the left is saying it'll be all the people who are poor that'll be most impacted. The right is saying that, and it could cause a problem with, issuing funds, Pell Grants, that kind of thing. So, and I think that was one of the things that, I'm finding a challenge is that what they're saying, it's like they stop with the messaging before the truth is actually revealed.
Yeah.
Like I heard you a little bit talking about the messaging, and these are great ideas, and I'm all for get the government. I don't even want the state involved, honest and truly. The education of my children is my responsibility.
Right.
Um, but when you have mixed messaging and it's unclear, and now you have all of these agencies, and I know that there are some people who are arguing, well, instead of it just being like a monopoly, one department, now there's going to be many. There will be fewer things happening. We don't know that for sure. There's a lot of moving parts now. We're growing as far as I can
Mhm.
see, which goes against conservative value of smaller government is better. And Secretary McMahon's on this big, visiting tour to go to all the 50 states and get best practices and all of these things. Well, when you go to the commie coast, Washington, Oregon, and California, you're going to get different best practices than you
Right.
do going to Florida or going to one of the flyover states, one of the Midwest states, where they have a lot more centralized power as far as the state is concerned, but they seem to be more, wanting to get things back in alignment with academics. Um,
I
I
really
I
feel
know
like this is like the cups, where you're like hiding the,
a
and just
shell game.
moving things around.
It
That's
is.
that's really what I feel like it is. And I think that the headlines and the messaging go to the people who don't really care enough or don't have the time
Mhm.
to dig in to get the real facts and to really see what's going on. But I think if you are a parent of a child in a public school, or you're the grandparent of a child in a public school, or you are in a public school, the the difficulties that are happening in the public schools. And Joy, as you've mentioned several times, it's not just going to go away when they reorg the Department of
Yeah,
Education. And,
yeah,
something I was thinking of at the beginning when you first started talking, uh, is like you had the CDC's whole child, whole school, whole community model. Like that's still up on the CDC's website, and that's
yep.
very much a part of the public education system. That's not going anywhere. Like,
See, and that's actually the lens that I was looking at through when I read all of this. Okay, when I look at things that we have come out very, very much against, like the WSCC, or the CDC's program, and then you've got community health clinics, and you've got all these layers of things in especially states that align with that, like Washington, Colorado, New York, and others. None of that's going away.
right.
That's what parents want to get rid of. And then they want the focus back on academics. I do not care. I really don't care whether or not my kid can help America make money and better the economy. Please do not take that as Joy does not care for people who are watching, because I can hear them running with it now. What I mean is that unless they have that academic foundation, it doesn't matter how great they can turn a screw or change a fitting or do anything in the workforce if they can't communicate. How many of these workforce jobs that they're trying to put in, even AI, in programming and different things, there's math involved, there's
Right.
skill involved. I mean, you have family members that are in the tech industry, Julie. You don't just sit behind a computer and not talk to anyone. You still
Right.
have coworkers. You might
Right.
have a team that you're in charge of. You have to have the skills to do that. And if we dismantle the Department of Ed, but we keep the programs that are actually targeting children and hurting them, nothing changes.
Yep.
Nothing. And we can't let the flashy lights and the squirrel moments distract us from those things, because the minute that we do get too distracted by, oh, the Department of Ed is gone now, which it isn't, and it can't unless Congress decides to act on it. Um, all the other things are still happening. They're still transitioning children socially. They're still giving them mental health help. They're still getting them in touch with community-based organizations out from the watchful eye of their parents. So,
So, what's next with this? Like, where
oh,
does it
yeah,
go next?
I mean, to me, I think that their next move is going to be to finish the interagency, the reorganization
But you
is, I think,
mentioned
what
that
they're going
that
to do
has to
next.
go through Congress, or they can
Yeah, to
reorg it.
actually they can go ahead and make these interagency transfers, but to actually completely close the Department of Education, it takes that act of Congress. They will either have to majorly amend that Department of Education Organization Act from '79 or completely repeal it. And so far, we're not seeing that happen, and from what I'm reading, there's pushback on both sides of the aisle against this
Well, and
for a
so
lot of different reasons.
I'm already thinking forward to the 2026 election, and
Mhm.
I'm very concerned that we're going to see the Democrats uh, get a majority in 2022 uh,
Concern I have
for
too.
so many reasons.
Yeah.
But so with that, let's say that that happens, right? So
Mhm,
we have a year for
mhm.
Congress to act on this with the Republican majority. But I
Yep.
agree with you. I don't think that there is enough support to pass it through. I don't think it would pass through either chamber. And what I think is really important for people to know is, we call it the education industrial complex, and that is because the education lobbyists are, they are hardcore, and they really there's so much pressure on these lawmakers. And so, and you see it at a state level and at a federal level. Of course, there's so much money in public education, It's really gross,
Billions.
and they're failing our children. It feels to me like
Mhm.
political theater, and puppetry at the expense of the American children. And of course, then that's just a domino effect, right? Then we have then we have to import people from China or India or whatever to do the jobs because the American students aren't equipped to do it. Well, why is that? Well, because the American education system has failed the American students. Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm getting a little
Oh,
ranty
no,
over here.
but it's what you're saying is true though, and what you're doing is you're connecting dots. And I want to say, you and I, while our children are grown, we still have responsibilities in our life, right? You have family that just moved to Florida that you're helping out and get settled in, all of that. And I understand that there's a lot of if for those of you who are Gen X and you remember watching Wendy's commercials, the pieces parts and the parts is parts from Wendy's, there are lots of moving parts with this.
Yeah,
And while and they're making these interagency agreements, you also have to look at the EOs that he has signed. He is very much pushing from top down AI in all sorts of areas, not just education. There's a real push for school choice, which is not school choice at all. It's still federal government because it's all coming anyway. There's strings. That's a whole other episode.
yeah, yeah, totally.
But but my point is this. There's all these things happening, and while everyone's over here watching Secretary McMahon get all excited with the dog and pony show that kind of is and kind of isn't happening, um, we miss all of these details. And because it's federal agencies that are going to be overseeing all of this money and all of this grant distribution and competition for grants, there's very much going to be, well, did Washington State or did your school district align with this policy that's coming from the federal government? What if you don't want your public education system to be aligned with that? I mean,
Right.
we've got districts all over the United States who have stepped outside and I'm thinking of blue states right now, who've had the courage to step up and not follow what they're being told, for the DEI and all of that.
Yeah.
Um, this is, as I said in my notes when you and I were talking about this, the pendulum has just swung the other direction on
Yep.
the right side,
Yep.
and it's at an extreme on the right side. And what is that going to look like when it swings back? And
For
what
sure.
does this look like I said earlier, when Democrats are in power?
Well, and that's just the thing, and, we talk about this a lot, is they're gonna come back hard. They're gonna come back with a vengeance. And, Christopher's point here about
He's
the
spot
education
on.
lobbies, the teachers union is very hard to fight. And just a really quick story, back in, January of 2022, which was the first time I ever testified on a bill. It was an education bill. It was actually a good one. It was, Representative Jim Walsh in Washington State, and it was about I think it was like patriotic civics. It was civics education.
Mhm.
And so I testified in support of it, and I couldn't believe, I had no idea. I was so naive. I didn't even know what I was walking into. But there was a line out the door of people from the teachers union, the principals union, the
Yep,
OSPI, there's so many different education organizations and union type things, and
mhm,
they don't just hit on education policy. They don't just show up for education policy. They're into your gun policy.
yep,
They have a huge agenda for firearms policy at every
mhm.
state level. I mean, they're so organized. I wish the GOP had a fraction of the organization that the
I
left
know.
has.
I know you and recently actually commented on the fact that you got to give the left props when it comes to the ground game. They run circles around the
Yep,
GOP, and that doesn't mean that we agree with them. We think they're evil and horrible. We don't like their programs and their policy, but got to give credit where credit is due. And
yep,
talking about that a little bit, this another thing to think about, folks. For the people in Washington and in other blue states, it doesn't matter what Trump does with education because our blue state governors are going to do whatever they want anyway. I mean, there here in Washington, our governor's spending money that we don't have to sue Trump every day, it feels like, is a new legal battle. We're in a deficit, and I'd love a couple of the money trees that they must be harvesting because it would be great,
They're
right?
already in your bank
So,
account, girl.
yeah,
They're already
exactly. Like,
pulling.
I mean, it just because it's happening at the federal level doesn't mean that it's going to be an automatic refresh and
Right.
everything's going to be great. And like you pointed out, we have a year. So if they don't get things in place and all there is an EO here and an EO there, they're just going to flip-flop on that. They did it with Biden. Remember the stack of EOs that they had on his desk
Right.
ready for him to overturn the first
Right.
day he took office? And Trump did the same thing. Every president's done it, I'm sure.
Yep. And that's
Um,
exactly what they're going to do.
I mean, this will be low-hanging fruit.
For
And
sure.
if they don't like something, just like if they end up with a majority, just like we have a majority right now in a chamber, they'll just overturn it. If they have the majority, they'll vote to overturn it, repeal it, and away we go.
Mhm.
It's, we have to get the government out of education as a whole. That's what we really need. And I do not have all the answers, so please don't think I do.
Well,
But
I'm just going to say straight up, Joy, I don't think it's going to happen. I don't believe in our lifetime it's going to happen. And that's why I'll go back to saying we need to build those parallel
yes.
society, parallel structure. We need to uh, have like the GOP and conservative organizations and groups should be spending a lot of time and energy and money on building an education system that we can shuffle these kids into because short of burning it down, which I have no problem with burning down the education system because it really does need to be completely rebuilt. But
Mhm.
our kids, we really have to do something. And so if you are like a big donor to something, donate, like consider like investing in some sort of organization or program where to get kids out of the public schools. And again, and we've talked about this before, is school choice is not the answer. That's more government strings attached. And so we need just private citizens, and the GOP or whatever, and all of these parent groups. I would love to see there be some sort of coordinated collaborative effort to build this, especially starting with education. And we can't,
And
and we talk about homeschool and pods and all that, but there needs to be something different where you can say to the single mom who has no money or means to put her child in private school or to homeschool, hey, we've got this other option for you over here. It's not going to cost you anything, and here you go.
yeah, and we also as a whole, I'm talking to everyone. I don't care um which side of the aisle you sit on, where you're watching from today. We have to question those we elect. We have to. Because the
Right.
flip side of orange man bad is because Trump and just following blindly.
Right.
I don't want anyone who's watching today to think that we hate Trump. I know I don't. I feel safe saying you don't. But that doesn't mean that I don't question. And in fact, that's what our founding fathers told us was our job. We are HR. We are HR
Right.
for the people that we elect. And when we just say, go do your job, we are being a horrible HR department. And
100%.
you can't vote your way out of this. You have to act your way out of it. You have to be willing to say, yes, I voted for Trump and I totally disagree with this policy, whatever that policy is,
Yep.
education, economy, whatever it is. Um, because when we don't, we fail our children, we fail our country, and it won't last. It's unsustainable to do that. Completely unsustainable.
And that's why I say my saying is it's not personal, it's policy. And
Yeah.
that means I might like you as a person, but I disagree with this policy that you're pushing or supporting. And we have to be able to have those types of conversations without, oh, what's the matter? You hate Trump? Don't you support Trump? Well, yes, I do support Trump. And I also don't think this is a good policy for
Mhm.
the American people. Um,
Yep.
And I
It,
put
it's
Corey's comment up here about the stop funding Islamic schools with vouchers, because this
Mhm.
is a really good point about the school choice thing. And this is a big problem that we're having here in Florida, is the school choice vouchers are
Yep.
funding these Islamic schools. I know it's
Texas
happening in
too.
Texas,
Mhm.
and it's probably happening everywhere. The
Yep.
Islamic, can I say the Islamic takeover of America? It's really happening. And so, we've got a lot of distractions going on. It's easy for people to get spun up and distracted on social media, but you guys, we have so many big issues
Mhm.
in our country and infecting our country, and we have to pay attention or we are going to lose it all.
Yep. 100%. If we don't put feet on our values as conservatives, whatever, and I know that that word's been hijacked. You and I have talked,
Right.
our team's talked about that a lot lately. But if we don't put feet to our values and do more than vote, whatever that looks like, then we kind of deserve whatever we get.
Yeah.
We
Yep.
have to. We just have to. And it's okay to have buyer's remorse for somebody you vote for. It's okay
Oh,
to
well,
not agree with
but
them.
see, the thing is, like, I look at Trump and I'm like, I I disagree with some of the things that he's doing, but I way like I would never go back and go, "Oh gosh, I wish I hadn't have voted for him." What was my option? Harris? Heck no. Like,
Yeah, I know.
absolutely not ever.
And real quick, just to cap it off on that same note, a lot of us, I've said this, at least it's not Harris, right?
Right, exactly,
But
exactly.
on the flip side of that, I'm gonna play a little devil's advocate here. Every time we say that, we normalize doing what whoever's in power doing what they're doing to the
Yep,
people. It
yep,
doesn't matter who's in power. And so, sure, there's no way I would vote for a communist or a socialist like that's a given, but you also have the power of a write-in. And I know
yep,
that there's a whole argument with that. But, we can say that we disagree and we wouldn't vote for someone else, but if we don't act and do differently and do better when we know better,
yeah,
eh,
yep, for
it's
sure.
the same thing. It's just a vicious cycle.
Yep.
Yep. Well, I apologize for my internet issues, everyone,
Well,
and
you
thank you for
should.
sticking it out. I
Thank
mean,
you I'm glad you got it resolved, and I'm glad you were persistent.
yeah,
Thank you for doing that. Thank you for your time on this. Thank you
yeah,
for going down into the rabbit hole and digging through all of this. Will you be writing up any kind of content that we can put on our website or our Substack?
yes. I
Okay.
absolutely will so that people can see the other places that they can go look. And if you have any questions about any of this, please feel free to send me an email, joy@conservativeladiesofamerica.com. And I'm happy to share with you the things that I had. Or if you're not sure, please ask. If you aren't sure, don't make an assumption about what I think or any of the things I said. Please, let's have a conversation. That is
Absolutely.
how we do things. I mean, we don't even always agree on everything on our team, but we always talk. Always.
Absolutely. Good
Yep.
word. And in every case. But so I want to say thank you to Silvermine. You've been an awesome
Yes.
cheerleader for us through this live stream. We appreciate you. Thank you for your support. Silvermine like goes back to our early days of our YouTube channel, and that is
That's
awesome. So
awesome.
for wherever you're watching, subscribe to us wherever you're watching. That really helps. Again, we are just a grassroots political watchdog organization, and we're able to do the things that we do because of people like you supporting
Mhm.
us. So, one great way that you can support us is subscribe to our Substack. We put out a lot of news and updates and calls to action. It's conservativeladiesofamerica.substack.com. And here, if you become a paid subscriber, that's like being a member of Conservative Ladies of America. And that's a
Mhm.
great way that you can support the work that we are doing, because we don't have as much as there are times I wish we had, the big donors, but at the same time, I'm like, I kind of like being able to say what I want to say and say what I believe to be true. Um, so it's all good. But everybody, thank you for joining us today. Please share this video with other citizens, especially parents that need to know about this, and share it far and wide. Have a fabulous
Mm.
Thanksgiving weekend. We hope you all just have a wonderful time with family or friends or whoever you're doing Thanksgiving with. Maybe it's by yourself and you're going to go see a movie or something and just chill out. But enjoy your Thanksgiving. Of course, that means there won't be a live stream on Thanksgiving Day because our Thursday live stream falls on Thanksgiving this week. So I do plan to be back next Thursday. Maybe I'll hit a live stream on Wednesday. We'll see. But anyway, have a great rest of your week and we will see you next time.
Yep. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.